Have you ever been trapped in that endless loop of thoughts at night? You're lying in bed, exhausted, but your mind is sprinting at full speed. What if I fail tomorrow? What if I lose my job? What if everything falls apart? Anxiety is like a thief in the night. It sneaks in, not to steal your money or your possessions, but something far more valuable, your present moment. And here's the strange part. Most of the things we fear haven't even happened yet. They're just shadows of possibilities, ghosts of futures that may never come to life. Yet, they weigh on us as if they're already real. We scroll through our phones, drowning in breaking news, negativity, and a highlight reel of other people's success. And suddenly, we feel smaller, weaker, behind. This isn't just your struggle. This is the reality of an entire generation. We live in a world more connected than ever, but also more anxious than ever. So here's the big question. Is there a way to face the storm of anxiety without being swallowed by it? The answer, surprisingly, comes from wisdom that's almost 2,000 years old. The philosophy of the Stoics, a way of thinking that helped warriors, emperors, and ordinary people alike face uncertainty with strength, calm, and clarity. Stay with me, because in this video, we'll uncover not just why anxiety haunts us, but also how Stoicism gives us a roadmap to take back control of our minds, our actions, and our peace of heart. Anxiety has quietly become the soundtrack of modern life. Think about it. We wake up, and before even brushing our teeth, we check our phones. Overnight, the world has delivered a fresh package of disaster straight to our notifications. Markets crashing, celebrities fighting, political chaos, some tragedy in a city we've never been to, involving people we'll never meet. And yet, we feel it. We carry it. Then comes the comparison. Open Instagram or TikTok, and suddenly, everyone else seems to be thriving. The perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect lifestyle. And there you are, in your pajamas, barely awake, already feeling like you're behind in a race you didn't even sign up for. By the time you step out the door, the weight is already pressing down. The fear of failure, the uncertainty of the future, the thought that you're never doing enough, never being enough. It's no wonder anxiety rates are skyrocketing. Studies show that young people today report higher levels of chronic anxiety than almost any previous generation. We are the most informed, most connected, most technologically advanced, and yet often the most emotionally fragile. Why? Because the mind is trapped in a loop. The loop of what if? What if I don't make enough money? What if I fail this project? What if the relationship falls apart? What if the future turns out worse than I expect? Anxiety thrives on uncertainty, and in our world, uncertainty is everywhere. We live in an age of rapid change. Technology moves faster than we can adapt. Jobs disappear overnight. Global events remind us just how little control we truly have. And here's the hard truth. The more we try to think our way out of uncertainty, the deeper we sink. The more we analyze, the more scenarios we imagine, the more we attempt to control outcomes that aren't even here yet, the more powerless we feel. It's like standing in quicksand. The more you struggle, the faster you sink. Let's be honest. Most of us have been there, wide awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, replaying worst-case scenarios like a broken record. And in that moment, it doesn't matter if the fears are logical or not. Your body reacts as if the disaster is already happening. Your heart races, your chest tightens, sleep slips away, and by morning you're drained, unfocused, already behind, which only fuels the cycle further. The problem isn't just the anxiety itself. The problem is that anxiety steals the only thing we truly have, the present moment. When you're consumed by tomorrow's fears, you miss today's joys, the smile of a friend, the warmth of the sun, the small victories that should give you confidence. All of it slips by unnoticed because your mind is already in some imagined future catastrophe. And maybe the cruelest part is this: most of the things we worry about never even happen. They live only in our imagination, tormenting us as if they were real. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it perfectly almost 2,000 years ago. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Yet knowing this doesn't seem to help much, does it? We hear advice like, don't worry, everything will be fine. But our brains don't switch off that easily. Why? Because we're trying to solve the wrong problem. We're trying to control things that were never in our control to begin with. And that, right there, is the heart of the issue. Anxiety is like trying to calm a stormy sea by shouting at the waves. The harder you try to control the uncontrollable, the more powerless you feel. And this is where Stoicism enters the picture. Not as some ancient, outdated philosophy, not as a cold, unemotional doctrine, but as a lifeline, a set of tools for real human beings like you, like me, to stop drowning in what we can't control and instead anchor ourselves in what we can. But before we get to the Stoic solution, pause for a moment and reflect. How much of your daily stress comes from things outside your control? The news? Other people's opinions? The unpredictable twists of life? If you're honest, probably most of it. And that's exactly why we need a different way of thinking. Because the old way, worrying, obsessing, overthinking, clearly isn't working. And the Stoics knew this. They lived in turbulent times. Wars, plagues, political betrayal, exile. They weren't strangers to uncertainty, and yet they developed a mindset that allowed them to face chaos with calm. When life feels overwhelming, when the future looks like a storm waiting to break, we often think we're alone in our struggles. But the truth is, human beings have wrestled with anxiety for thousands of years. In fact, some of the wisest minds of history, the Stoic philosophers, dedicated their lives to answering the same questions that keep us up at night. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who rose to become one of the greatest teachers of philosophy, said something simple yet revolutionary. Some things are in our control and others are not. That's it. That's the cornerstone of Stoicism. At first glance, it sounds obvious. Of course, some things are under our control and others aren't. But think about how you actually live day to day. How much of your mental energy is wasted on things you can't control? The weather, the economy, whether people like you or not, whether tomorrow will bring success or failure. These things live entirely outside your influence. You can't reach out and change them with sheer willpower. And yet, they dominate your thoughts. The Stoics believed this is where anxiety is born. From confusing what belongs to us with what doesn't. From trying to control the uncontrollable. So what is in our control? Epictetus answers clearly, our thoughts, our choices, our actions, our attitude toward events. That's it. That's the small but powerful circle of control each of us truly possesses. Once you see this distinction, something incredible happens. You stop wasting energy on what you can't change, and you reclaim it for what you can. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with bricks. Every what if about the future is another brick. Every attempt to control someone else's opinion is another. No wonder you feel exhausted. Stoicism teaches you to put those bricks down. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome, carried the weight of ruling the largest empire on earth. War, betrayal, plague. His daily life was filled with chaos. Yet, in his private journal, which later became Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not just a comforting thought. It's a practical tool. It means that no matter how uncertain the world becomes, your inner world can remain steady. You can't stop the storm, but you can build an anchor. Let's bring this closer to home. Imagine you're about to give a presentation at work. Your anxiety kicks in. What if I mess up? What if they laugh? What if I fail? Pause. Ask the Stoic question. Can I control the future reaction of others? No. Can I control whether I will be perfectly flawless? Not really. But can I control how much I prepare? Can I control how I speak, how I breathe, how I present myself in this moment? Absolutely. That's where your energy belongs. Or picture this. You're waiting to hear back from a job interview. Days go by. No reply. The anxiety builds. You check your email every 5 minutes, your stomach in knots. The Stoic perspective reminds you, the decision is not in your control. You cannot reach into the hiring manager's mind. What is in your control is your response. Sending a polite follow-up, continuing your job search, keeping your daily routine steady. By focusing on your actions instead of obsessing over outcomes, you reclaim your peace. This shift may sound small, but it's life-changing. Anxiety thrives in the gap between what we wish to control and what we actually can. Close that gap, and anxiety loses its grip. Seneca, another great Stoic, gave us this timeless insight. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. He's pointing at the same truth. Our fears about the future often wound us more deeply than reality ever could. So what's the Stoic solution? It's not to pretend the world is perfect. It's not to numb yourself or ignore problems. The Stoics were not about blind optimism. They were about clarity, about directing your limited time, energy, and attention toward what you actually command, your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and letting go of the rest. It's a kind of mental minimalism, a way of decluttering your mind from unnecessary worries so that what remains is manageable, focused, and strong. This is why Stoicism is so powerful for anxiety. It doesn't ask you to fight your fears head-on. It asks you to disentangle yourself from them, to stop feeding them with your attention. And once you make that shift, you'll notice something extraordinary. The world doesn't change, but your experience of it does. The storm still rages. The future is still uncertain. But you are no longer drowning in what-ifs. You are standing firmly in what is. That's the Stoic solution in its essence. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. But philosophy alone is not enough. Ideas are powerful, yes, but unless you put them into practice, they remain just words. Philosophy is only powerful when it's lived. The Stoics didn't sit around just thinking deep thoughts. They practiced daily habits, rituals, and exercises to train their minds the way an athlete trains their body. So if anxiety has been your constant companion, here are practical Stoic practices to loosen its grip and reclaim your peace of mind. Step 1. Write your worries down. The Stoics valued writing as a way of clearing the mind. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations was never meant to be published. It was his private journal, a place to untangle his own thoughts. You can do the same. When anxiety circles endlessly in your head, it grows larger than life. But when you put it on paper, it shrinks. It becomes something you can examine instead of something that controls you. So grab a notebook. Write down your worry. What exactly am I afraid of? Now ask, is this within my control? If yes, what small action can I take today? If no, why am I holding on to it? This exercise does two things. First, it breaks the cycle of rumination. Second, it trains your brain to separate controllable from uncontrollable. That separation is where freedom begins. Step 2. Take immediate small action. Anxiety thrives on paralysis. The longer you sit with fear, the bigger it grows. The Stoic solution is to take one small action right now. If your worry is within your control, don't wait. Nervous about an upcoming exam? Study one page tonight. Worried about your health? Take a 10-minute walk. Overwhelmed by work? Send one email that moves the project forward. Action breaks the spell of fear. Even a tiny step forward proves to your anxious mind that you are not powerless. And if your worry is not within your control, the Stoic response is radical but liberating. Let it go. Imagine yourself dropping a heavy bag you never needed to carry. Step 3. Practice presence. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And what is imagination, if not leaving the present moment? The Stoics urged us to return to now. The past is gone. The future is not yet here. Only the present is truly ours. Try this. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and name 3 things you can see, 2 things you can hear, 1 thing you can feel. This grounds you in reality, pulling you out of imagined futures. Another Stoic practice is to remind yourself, I do not live in tomorrow. I live in today. Repeat it when your mind races ahead. The present moment is always more manageable than the imagined catastrophe. Step 4. Negative visualization. This may sound strange at first, but the Stoics practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It means imagining what could go wrong, not to dwell in fear, but to prepare your mind. For example, imagine losing your job. Instead of spiraling, ask, what would I do? How would I survive? Often, you'll realize that even your worst-case scenario is survivable. You might struggle, yes, but you would adapt. By rehearsing adversity in the mind, the Stoics built resilience. The shock of the unexpected became softer because they had already faced it in thought. This doesn't increase anxiety, it reduces it. It transforms vague, monstrous fears into clear, manageable possibilities. Step 5. Voluntary discomfort. Another Stoic habit was deliberately practicing discomfort. Seneca would sleep on a hard bed or wear rough clothing to remind himself that he could endure hardship. Why? Because so much of anxiety comes from fearing what we think we cannot endure. By choosing small discomforts now, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than you realize. So try this. Take a cold shower. Skip a meal. Leave your phone behind for a few hours. These small acts remind you, I don't need everything to go perfectly to be okay. The fear of losing comfort begins to fade. Step 6. Daily reflection. At the end of the day, the Stoics recommended reflection. Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about learning, adjusting, and moving forward. Over time, these nightly reflections strengthen self-awareness and reduce regret, 2 key triggers of anxiety. These 6 practices may sound simple, but don't underestimate them. They are small, yes, but they are powerful when done daily. The Stoics understood something we often forget. Peace of mind is built, not wished for. It's built through habits, through training, through choosing to live intentionally rather than letting life sweep you away. Imagine waking up tomorrow and instead of scrolling your phone in dread, you start with journaling. Instead of spiraling about the future, you take one clear action. Instead of fearing discomfort, you practice resilience. Day by day, the anxiety loses its grip. And what replaces it is not blind optimism, but something stronger. Confidence in your own ability to face whatever comes. That is the gift Stoicism offers us. Not freedom from all problems, but freedom from being destroyed by them. Deepening the practice and daily integration. It's one thing to practice Stoicism for a few minutes a day, to journal, reflect, breathe, but the real test is life itself. What happens when your boss criticizes you unfairly? What happens when the news headlines scream disaster? What happens when the unexpected crash, loss, or heartbreak hits? This is where Stoicism moves from being an idea to being a way of life. The Stoics didn't want philosophy to sit in books. They wanted it in the marketplace, on the battlefield, in the home, in the daily grind. So how do we integrate Stoicism into modern life? How do we carry its calm strength everywhere we go? 1. Reframe obstacles as training. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that. What if your obstacles weren't enemies, but teachers? What if every difficulty was training for your soul? A chance to practice patience, courage, and resilience. The next time something goes wrong, the train is late, your laptop crashes, someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of reacting with frustration, pause, say to yourself, "This is practice. This is the gym for my mind." Suddenly, anxiety turns into opportunity. You're no longer a victim of circumstances, but a student of them. 2. Remember, you've survived before. One of the greatest antidotes to anxiety is memory. Look back. How many of the things you once feared actually destroyed you? Probably none. You've faced hardship before. You've felt lost before. And yet, here you are, still standing, stronger than you think. The Stoics constantly reminded themselves of this truth. Hardship is not new. Survival is not new. You've done it before and you can do it again. Every scar is proof that you're capable of more than your fear admits. 3. Practice the art of indifference. Epictetus taught, "If it's not under your control, treat it as nothing to you." This doesn't mean you stop caring about the world. It means you stop attaching your peace of mind to what you cannot change. Someone insults you? That's their words, not your worth. The market dips? That's the economy, not your identity. A stranger glares at you? That's their mood, not your reality. The Stoic doesn't become cold or uncaring. They simply refuse to hand over their happiness to the whims of the outside world. Imagine how much lighter life feels when your sense of calm doesn't rise and fall with every external storm. 4. Memento mori, remember you will die. This may sound morbid, but the Stoics saw it as empowering. Memento mori, remember that you must die. Marcus Aurelius reflected daily on the shortness of life, not to despair, but to sharpen his focus. To stop wasting time on trivial fears and instead live fully. Think about it. One day, none of your anxieties will matter. The job title, the awkward moment, the worry about the future, all of it will dissolve into silence. When you remember the brevity of life, perspective returns. You stop sweating the small things. You stop postponing joy. You realize the future is uncertain, but today is alive, and that is enough. 5. Amor fati, love of fate. Nietzsche later used this phrase, but the spirit is Stoic. Amor fati, love your fate. Don't just accept what happens. Embrace it. It's easy to say, I'll endure this. But what if you said, I'll welcome this? What if every twist of life, the victories and defeats, the gains and losses, were seen as essential notes in the song of your life? This is the highest Stoic practice. Not merely tolerating reality, but affirming it. Saying, yes, this too belongs to me. This too is shaping me. When you weave these principles into daily life, something changes. Anxiety doesn't vanish completely. The Stoics never promised that. But its power weakens, because now every fear becomes practice. Every uncertainty becomes perspective. Every hardship becomes proof that you are stronger than you thought. Life doesn't get easier, but you get tougher, calmer, more grounded. And that shift, that strength of mind, is what Stoicism was always about. The conclusion. We began this journey with a familiar feeling, the restless anxiety about the future. That endless loop of what-ifs that keeps you awake at night, stealing today while you're busy fearing tomorrow. We've seen how the Stoics, Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, wrestled with the same fears centuries ago. They lived through wars, plagues, betrayal, uncertainty. And yet, they left us a philosophy that feels even more relevant now than it did then. The solution, they taught, is not in controlling the uncontrollable, but in mastering the controllable. Not in fighting every storm, but in anchoring yourself so firmly that the storm cannot move you. And we've walked through practical steps to make this real. Writing down your worries, taking small, immediate action, practicing presence in the now, using negative visualization and voluntary discomfort to build resilience, reflecting daily, learning, and adjusting. We've explored deeper habits. 2. Reframing obstacles as opportunities, practicing indifference to what lies outside your control, remembering the brevity of life, and even learning to embrace fate with love. These are not abstract theories. They are tools. Tools you can use tonight, tomorrow, and every day after. Tools that, when practiced consistently, transform anxiety from a suffocating weight into a passing cloud. Because the truth is, anxiety never disappears completely. Even the Stoics felt fear. Marcus Aurelius admitted in his journals that he woke up some mornings reluctant to face the day. Seneca confessed that he often felt the tug of worry. But here's the difference. They didn't let those feelings own them. They learned to face anxiety with clarity, courage, and calm. And you can, too. Remember this. The present moment is all you truly have. Tomorrow is a concept. Yesterday is a memory. But right now, this breath, this heartbeat, this moment is real. If you can meet the present moment with strength and calm, then the future, whenever it arrives, will be met in the same way. So the next time your mind whispers, what if? Answer with the Stoic truth. If it's in my control, I will act. If it's not, I release it. It's simple, but it's everything. Life will always bring storms. The world will always bring uncertainty. But you, with the wisdom of the Stoics, can be the lighthouse. Calm, steady, unshaken. If this message spoke to you, If you felt even a moment of peace while listening, remember, Stoicism is not something you just hear about once. It's something you live day by day. So I invite you, keep learning, keep practicing, keep building that inner fortress. And if you'd like to walk this journey together, consider subscribing. Join a community of people who, just like you, are choosing calm over chaos, wisdom over fear, strength over anxiety. Because the storms of life aren't going away. But with the right mindset, neither are you. Stay steady, stay strong, and remember, you already carry everything you need inside you.